we're going to solve a few equations, quadratic equations, by using the square root property in this video. And let's remind ourselves of what the square root property is first of all. Square root property says that if a squared equals k, then a equals plus or minus the square root of k. And the way I like to think about that when I'm solving some problems is if you look at a squared equals k, if you square root both sides, right, you balance out the equation by doing the same thing to both sides. Square root and the square cancel each other out, and you just got to remember to put a plus or minus in here to incorporate all possible solutions, and that's where you come up with the a equals plus or minus root k. So let's solve out a few equations using this property. The first one, 25y squared, take away 8 equals 23. Alright, the key is that you got to isolate the square. Whatever's being squared must be isolated. Once you isolate it, you use this property right here. The thing squared, you do square root both sides, so the thing equals plus or minus the square root of the other side. Alright, so we need to isolate the y squared. 25 is not being squared, just the y is being squared. Isolate y squared. So to do that, we need to add 8 to both sides. 25y squared is equal to 31. Divide off the 25 that we don't want next to the y squared. Y squared equals 31 over 25. Now we have an isolated square. Once you have an isolated square, you can square root both sides. Throw in the plus minus to make sure you're taking into account all possible solutions. And we get y equals plus or minus root 31 over 25. And you want to root it as far as possible always and reduce things as far as possible. Square root of 31, we can't do it out, so we'll leave it like that. Square root of 25 is 5. So our final answer is going to be plus or minus root 31 over 5. And depending on your book or the software you're using, you might need to list your answer as two separate answers, like root 31 over 5, comma, minus root 31 over 5. Alright, so do whatever your book or software or teacher wants you to do. So there's one. Let's do another one. X plus 5 quantity squared equals 49. Here we have something being squared that's already isolated. Now the stuff that's being squared happens to have a couple of terms in it. It's a binomial, but that doesn't change the approach. If you have something squared equals a number, you square root both sides, and you're going to be able to isolate the thing that was being squared. Alright, so starting again, we get x plus 5 squared is 49. Square root, plus minus. That gives us x plus 5 equals plus or minus root 49. And then we go ahead and root it as far as we can. X plus 5 equals plus or minus 7. Now, because we have plus or minus 7, we have two possibilities. And what I like to do here is split it into the two possibilities, only because I find most students make fewer mistakes if they split it up at this point. So if we take the plus sign, one possibility is x plus 5 equals 7, the positive. The other possibility is x plus 5 equals minus 7. That's going to give us our second solution. And now we just solve them separately and get our two possible solutions. Take away 5, take away 5, x equals 2. And take away 5, take away 5, x equals minus 12. So those would be our two answers for that problem. Let's try out another one. And remember, when you're doing these, always plug your answers back into the very original equation before you did any square rooting, and check to make sure that it really does make the statement true. Alright, let's see how much time we got left here. Alright, we got some time, so let's do another one out. Let's see, how about number 14, which would be 3k plus 2 squared equals 12. The thing being squared is already isolated, so we're going to go right to square root property, square root both sides. With the plus minus, we get 3k plus 2 equals plus or minus root 12. Now, root 12 we can simplify a bit, because it's 4 times 3. And that means we can write it as 3k plus 2 equals plus or minus root 4 times root 3. And we can do the root 4, which is 2. 3k plus 2 equals plus or minus 2 root 3. Now we still need to solve for k. We managed to isolate the 3k plus 2 using the square root property. But what we really want is what does k equal? So here we're going to split it into our two possibilities again, the plus and the minus. And solve them out. So we have 3k plus 2 equals the positive 2 root 3, or 3k plus 2 equals the negative 2 root 3. And that will give us our two possible answers. So we solve each one independently. Take away 2, take away 2. 3k equals 2 root 3 minus 2, so we can't combine those at all because of the root 3, so we just leave it like that. And we've got a 3 on the k here being multiplied, so we divide it off both sides, making sure the entire right side is divided by the 3. Cancels out. K is 2 root 3 minus 2 all over 3, so that'd be one of our answers. Or, and now we solve out the other one. Take away 2, take away 2. 3k equals minus 2 root 3, take away 2. Dividing off the 3. K equals minus 2 root 3 minus 2 all over 3. That would be our other answer. And you can also write it combined. Some students prefer from this step up here to keep it all combined. And that would be okay. If you do it that way, you're going to end up with an answer of k is plus or minus 2 root 3. Take away 2 over 3. But again, that depends on the software that you're using and also what your teacher likes to see. Alright, so most of the time it's going to be showing your answers in this format here with the two possibilities split up.